Hello and welcome to the first episode of On The Level, brought to you by riders in Bridgwater and Bristol. On The Level is going to be all out giving you straightforward information on the bikes and gear we have here in store, and also some stories from our customers. In this episode, ex-BSB and TT rider Martin Jessopp will be taking the Ducati Multistrada 1260 Grand Tour out for a spin across the Somerset levels, and will also be putting his Panigale V4R through its paces on the Dyno. Mike Filder tells us all about his travels on his Harley-Davidsons, and I even get my hands on my very first Harley. To mark the first episode of On The Level, we're launching our On The Level 2020 wristbands. Next time you spend £100 or more in store in either Bridgwater or Bristol, you'll get one of these cool new wristbands to wear with pride. Every time you visit one of our cafes, either Riders Dyno in Bridgwater or PJ's in Bristol, you'll get a free tea or coffee. And if instant coffee isn't your thing, you can upgrade to a premium fresh coffee for just £1. So that's another great reason to include riders as your pit stop on a Saturday ride. Or drop in for breakfast or lunch. We've got a full menu, including stuff for vegetarians and gluten-free options. Have you ever toured on your bike or dreamt of going to far-flung places and exploring on two wheels? Mike Filder has been travelling for many a year, be that solo, of wife riding pillion, or as part of a group. He's explored 37 countries so far, and many more on the list. Mike's come in to tell us all about it in our Bridgwater store. So you've recently changed to a Softail Slim from a Street Glide. Was there anything in particular that you were looking for in your new bike, and what were your first impressions?
Really quite impressed. It's not got a stage one as yet, but the power is very responsive. Compared to the Street Glide, it's got a much lower centre of gravity and lower seat height. So for some of the things we're looking for the future, I think it's going to be an ideal bike. So historically, we've done fairly substantial long trips for which the Street Glide has been absolutely spot on with the panniers and everything. But we're now sort of venturing to, it's like, for this year, we're looking at a new approach that we're going to go to a location, base ourselves there for 5-10 days, and then ride. So this year we're looking to do the Dolomites, and we're going to park up, and basically then every day in the morning we're going to ride out to a couple of the passes. And I think the lighter, lower centre of gravity bike without full gear on the back will be quite a pleasure to be travelling up and around the mountains. So looking forward to that.
For you.
Absolutely. So we're looking forward to that. That was the logic behind changes. As much as I love the other bike, that's the logic to try a different bike now.
Which of your Harleys has been the most fun to travel with on your journeys?
Yeah, good question. I've now had 5, all different models. Started off with an 883 Sportster, and I think that's a good entry bike, but not really one that you're going to do long distance touring. So from there I went on to a Heritage. That was absolutely fabulous. Loved the Heritage, and again we started touring Europe on that. One time I was coming down the Grossglockner, got to the top and coming down, and I lost pressure on the back brake, so I just had the single disc on the front. And sort of after that trip, I thought I'm going to move on to something with twin discs on the front, so I went on to the Road King, and again that was a great bike to tour on. So venturing from the more classic bikes, I then went on to the Street Glide, which is really designed for long distance touring, but it is a bit top heavy when you've got the wife on the back and you've got the luggage on and everything, and you still want to do all the mountain passes, but you're quite top heavy, so it's, it takes a bit, the skill level sort of creeps up on you, I think. But all of them have been good, and originally the 883 I was planning on touring around Europe, and we got very, very close. I bought a tank bag and a couple of soft panniers and things like that. But probably about 3 weeks before we were due to do our first trip, just me and the wife, we were going to tour 3 weeks tour all of Spain and Portugal. I nipped into Riders and I come back with the Heritage, and the wife saying, "Is the bike all ready to go?" And I said, "Yeah, it is, come and have a look." And it was a different bike, so that was the reason for changing that one.
Did you get a slap on the wrist for turning up?
Not at all. She was delighted, so spent a bit more money, but it was the right bike for the job. We had a fantastic trip around Spain, but it was camping the first trip, which we never did again.
You've ridden all over Europe with all of your travels. Were they all solo journeys?
Well, first off, just to say, yeah, we have done quite a few countries now, and it was never necessarily, we didn't set off with the intention of trying to tick off a list of every country in Europe, but we've reached a stage sort of 15 years later that we've done 37 odd countries in Europe and a lot of the islands. So we've done all around Scandinavia, Finland, Norway, Sweden, Denmark. We've done northeast of Europe, so we've done Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, we've done North Poland. We then ventured further east, so we've done Hungary, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Slovenia. We've gone down south to Croatia, so we've done a fair few. And the last big trip, we did 16 countries in about 2.5 weeks, and that was picking up the ones that we'd sort of left to the end really, and that was the southeast. So that was probably the best trip of all because it was venturing into the unknown. And we started off in sort of Slovakia, Hungary, but then we went to Romania, Bulgaria, Macedonia, Montenegro, Albania, Bosnia, and then back up through Croatia. So that was really quite. But we started off, I guess, the sort of second part of your question, we started off just me and the wife, and then with the chat to a Great Western, we've had some great trips, and we've gone in groups of 20, and we went one year down to Fuengirola, which was probably our most memorable trip as a big group. But as time's progressed, we tend to ride just a couple of bikes or 2 or 3 bikes. For no other reason. We love the camaraderie of having a big group, but you can go that much further, and you know, it's easier to plan your route and stop where you want. You know, if you've got another 20 bikes following you, it's not quite so easy to say, oh, we're going to pull up here for lunch. You know, so you've got to plan it. Yeah, so that works really well, and with our best friends Bill and Sam, we really now, you know, but we have a blooming good laugh when we go. You know, it's a lot of fun along the way. It's not all serious riding all the time. You know, we stopped in Istanbul for 3 nights. That was fantastic. In Athens and so on. So we make sure there's a good balance between riding and you know, and stopping and having a bit of fun on the way.
So 2 wheels has always been a passion of mine, but with 6 years off the bike, it's about time I made a comeback, and I'm sure there's plenty of you that can relate with that. When I was told that I'd be taking a Harley-Davidson out for a test ride, I was a little bit excited, but at the same time a bit intimidated by my first Harley. Fortunately, Gavin was there to set me straight, and Harvey ran through all the details on the Street Rod 750.
So you haven't ridden for a while then?
No, it's been about 6 years.
Has it? Well, if you haven't ridden for a long time, one of the best bikes you could probably get back in with is probably a Street Rod 750. Nice linear power, not too aggressive to start off with, it has ABS brakes, nice bike, good riding position. It's got quite an aggressive riding position as well, which is quite attractive for the younger male. What do you think of something like this?
Yeah, it's really good. Nice, feels nice and comfortable.
Yeah, and the joy with a new bike like this is you get 2 years warranty, breakdown cover, tax is all with it. In fact, all you have to do is insure it.
So we spent a bit of time looking through different options in terms of clothing for taking the bike out for a test ride, and we've decided, given the time of year, that textile would be the way to go in terms of the jacket. But I'll start off with the helmet we've gone for. Harley-Davidson Killian helmet, nice front air vents, internal visor, and for the price point, really nice weight. And next up, we've got the Harley-Davidson Burke jacket. We've gone for this one being waterproof and breathable, pre-curved, so really nice fit straight out of the bag. Plenty of pockets, internal and external, and also coming with the removable liner. So again, come winter months, you can stay nice and warm. Come the summer months, you can take it down and still keep the jacket really nice and breathable. And finally, we've got the Harley-Davidson dual chamber gloves. Gone for with these ones, as inside you've got a lovely sort of middle section that allows you in summer to go for the outside. In the winter, you can actually pop that one in there and gives you an extra layer of protection against the wind and general elements. Got a zip and also Velcro fitting there, so it gives a real nice fit to your hands. Again, keeps all the warmth in. So yeah, that's the final choice. First impressions walking out to the bike, obviously me being 6'2", it's quite daunting being on quite a low and small bike, but that's my downfall rather than the bike. But once you get going, really found it quite confidence inspiring, given I've been off the bike for so long. It's got real nice smooth power and also great handling, so it's something that allows you to really kind of thrive on the road. So if you're returning to biking like myself, or if it's something that you've just passed your test and it's going to be your first bigger bike, it's a great starting point. Very comfortable jacket with the pre-curved fit, so I found straight away didn't feel it restricted my movement or anything along those lines. And another thing, definitely keeping the thermal lining in the jacket for the time of year. I was definitely thankful for that once you get going. Didn't feel cold in the slightest. The helmet was a really good fit thanks to the really soft padding that's in there, and the cheek pads. Really good ventilation from those vents up front, and the internal sun visor was definitely a godsend at certain points. And then moving on to the gloves, we tried those in both positions. Really is a noticeable difference. Boy, did that feel good, and I can't wait to swing my leg over another Harley. We go back over to Mike now to continue his story. Was there any places that you would visit again?
Almost every place we've been, I'd like to spend more time, and perhaps in years to come we'll have the opportunity. But the one that springs to mind is Scandinavia. We rode up. The plan was to get right to the top to Nordkapp, and bear in mind each one of these trips we've done is we're working. You can only have the summer holidays, so two weeks, 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks at most. But Finland, we wanted to get right to the top, and it was only when we were there we realised how slow all the speed limits were, and literally on every road junction. So you can look ahead of you, see the road going right out, sort of 3 miles ahead of a nice straight road. But the speed limit's like 50 k's, and on every junction as you go along there's a speed camera. So we don't want to speed, but it does hamper your progress. So we set off on that trip hoping to do sort of 300-400 miles a day, and we couldn't have done that if we'd have ridden 24 hours. So we had to replan that, and we didn't get quite as far as we want. So we had to double back through Norway. Still a fantastic trip, but for someone like Scandinavia you need a lot more time to be able to achieve it.
Were there any places you definitely want to avoid next time?
There's nowhere really. Everywhere we've been made welcome, and it's been good fun. Road-wise is a different question. Latvia, some of the roads were pretty hideous, and in the countryside in North Poland, we went up to the Masurian Lakes, which is just below the sort of the Russian Kaliningrad border, and the roads were crazy there. That's where one of my breakdowns happened, that my exhaust sheared off right by the manifold, and I had to go into Gdansk and get it repaired. But the roads are like old cobbled roads with cobbles missing, tarmac missing, so it was pretty challenging. You need, what's the new Harley, the Pan American, I think that's the bike. So I wouldn't say I wouldn't do it again, but I'd do it on a different bike. So perhaps that's something for the future.
And has the weather kind of played a part in the sort of choice of location?
We've been pretty fortunate with the weather, but anyone who's ridden a bike knows you've got to ride in the bad weather. And we've had a couple of. I did in 2017. Me and my son rode to the south of Spain. Him on his Panigale V4, and me on my Harley, obviously. And we sat down in April, so all the family flew down, and we said we were going to ride down. And we got to just north of Madrid into the mountains, and all I was wearing was my Kevlar jeans, thinking it was going to Spain, it was going to be sunny. And we were in amongst the snow. It was about 18 inches of snow, so I stood there at the side of the road in the snow in my jeans. So that was pretty cold. And probably the worst rain we ever had was when we left Gdansk and we rode to Berlin, and it was heaving down for the whole 380 miles or so. And the police even stopped the traffic on the motorway because you were riding in about 3 inches deep of water. So they made you go off, and then we had to find our route across country in Poland. So yeah, we've had a few occasions, but never stopped us making progress.
When you turn up on your bike, is there sort of a conversation starter because you turned up on a Harley?
Not going to lie, that is one of the real joys of riding a Harley. Really, you can turn up on a Japanese sports bike and people see you on a bike, but if you turn up on a Harley, especially when the two of us turn up, and the bikes look pretty special. Yeah, you do draw a crowd sometimes, and I think the further away you are, if you're in Europe, if you're in France and Germany, yeah, it's a couple of guys on a Harley, but when you've ridden to Turkey, or you're at the bottom of Greece or somewhere a bit unusual, and you turn and think, what, you've ridden all the way here from the UK, and they always want to have a chat with you. So we've had some really quite pleasant encounters with people. They've been really quite friendly. But I'll just give you one example. We were sat in Istanbul in a bar in the city centre, in a city I think it's got something like 15 million people. So we sat there, we just had a meal, we're sat outside this restaurant, and this big massive Turkish chap comes up to us and he said, "You guys, are you the two British guys that have ridden here on Harleys? This is in the middle of Istanbul, 15 million people." We said, "Yeah, that's us." He said, "Oh, I've heard all about you. Can I buy you a drink?" And he comes and sits with us, and he says, "Come and get my friends a drink." So we sat there for an hour. He wanted to know all about it. He just kept us drinking. And he said, "Oh, by the way, this is my restaurant. And in actual fact, I own most of this street, but that doesn't matter, So he said, "You're always welcome."
You've probably heard people talking about dyno tuning and wonder what it's all about. Well, it's not just about power. Dyno Jet can be used for poor running issues and also performance gains. The basic power run costs £60 and will give you a printout to show you just how healthy your engine's performance is. Here's our dyno expert Greg taking Martin Jessopp's V4R through its paces. You might want to turn the volume up for this bit. And I'm sure you've had quite a few mechanical issues along the way. Is that something that's actually added to your experience?
Yeah, it's certainly never put us off, and if I'm honest with you, we've hardly had any problems. The Harleys have been phenomenally reliable, never had a puncture, had a couple of sort of breakdowns, one that was my own fault with on the train that we used to get from Dusseldorf to the bottom of Austria. I obviously didn't set the alarm, so the battery went flat, and a bunch of Dutch guys helped us out. So someone always comes to your rescue, but probably the most noticeable was in Poland when the exhaust sheared off. And with the good old hog book that you used to get in the old days with all the dealerships, I was 120 miles from Gdansk, so I phoned through to the Gdansk Harley-Davidson dealership. I said, "Look, I'm on my way to you. We're planning on spending 2 nights in Gdansk. Is there anything you can do?" And he said, "Yeah, make your way there. We'll see what we can do." So we turned up like a few hours later, and he said, "I've spent all afternoon seeing what I can do." He said, "I've tried the Polish, eBay, I've phoned all my friends up to see if they've got a manifold, but I do know there's one manifold in the depot in Belgium." He said, "If you want it, I'll order it now and it'll be here tomorrow." So we parked the bikes up in the dealership, left it the 2 days that we'd planned to be there. 2 days later, we got a taxi to the place, all the bikes done. They'd even gone to the trouble for the 2 bikes to give them a quick once over, because they know we'd been travelling. They said, "Oh, by the way, you had a bulb gone in yours." We give them a good check over. So we said, "How much?" "Oh, we don't want money for that." "Oh, just pay." And he even went and showed me the microfiche, and he said, "Just so you know, I'm just charging you for the bits. This is the labour, so we wouldn't dream of ripping you." And I thought, what a service! You wouldn't get that anywhere else. And I'm really, really impressed. So credit to the Gdansk guys. That could have been a showstopper event, really, couldn't it? And really, it didn't affect the trip whatsoever, because we planned to be there for 2 days. So yeah, all credit to.
What's the most significant thing that you've learnt in all of your travels?
Quite an easy one. This one is my one my one abiding sort of comment is, don't be frightened to go out and have an adventure. just because it's a bit unknown, don't be put off because you perhaps haven't ridden too many countries. Don't think you've got to suddenly go and do 5,000 miles, but you're safe. We've travelled numerous countries. We've never felt unsafe. The one I was leaving to the last was Albania, and I think years ago Albania was a closed country, and we went year before last, and they made us so friendly, and I thought, why have I ever worried? So my advice to anyone, if people are watching this, is just get out there and don't worry. Be prepared. I think it's vital you plan. You've got your documents, your bike is ready, you've thought about if you've got a credit card, if something, if you lose one, and all that sort of stuff. Do your prep, find out about the countries. Hugely important. Respect the culture, because if you do venture into a faraway country, you just need to be mindful that you don't upset them inadvertently by your gestures or stuff like that, but just follow their culture. But go out and ride and enjoy it. And you don't have to ride 1,000,000 miles to get somewhere. You can do things like you can take a train, you can get to North Germany, take a train to the bottom of Austria if you don't want to ride all of that way. If you want to go to Greece, you can go to Venice and get a ferry down to Greece, 24 hours. So you break your journey up with a 24-hour ferry trip, like being on a mini cruise. So there's loads of ways you can travel further without having to be in the saddle for that full, it's not about, see how far you can get with all riding sort of thing. It's a mixture of everything.
Where will your Harley take you next, and is there any plans to go past the European borders?
There's a slight reason for the European borders in that I don't fly. Okay. So I try and get as far as I can. So we've gone to the Arctic Circle, we've gone to as far as Asia. We've ridden as far as we can within the time frame at the minute. In years to come, if we've got more time on our hands, then I'm hopefully going to try and venture further. Even go to America, but sail across and hire a bike and be over there for a few months. But immediately there's still a few places in Europe and on the periphery of Europe, like Ukraine. I want to go to Ukraine and the couple of countries we haven't visited yet. And as I mentioned earlier, this year we're planning to base ourselves in the Dolomites and really explore that, because we just sort of rode through that last year on the way back to Innsbruck. We hadn't even considered the Dolomites, and the scenery was so breathtaking and the riding was so fantastic. So it's influenced that we want to stay there for 10 days and have a real good get to know it and ride all the mountain passes. So yeah, that's the plans for the future.
Perfect. Well, thanks for coming and thanks for your time.
No worries. Hope
best of luck on your
some interest to anyone who's watching who's thinking of venturing further afield. So cheers.
Okay. You might know Martin Jessopp from his British Superbike and TT career. He also happens to be one of the directors here at Riders, and it didn't take much to persuade him to get on a bike, even though the weather's a bit chilly. Here's Gavin giving Martin the lowdown on the Multistrada 1260 Grand Tour.
This is the 2020 Grand Tour version of the Multistrada, based on the ever popular 1260S platform. Alright. Great fun bike to ride with practical twist as well. This bike benefits, got the touring package standard, so the colour matched panniers, centre stand, heated grips, and then also on this Grand Tour version, got the spotlights, they come standard, tyre pressure monitoring as well. Still got your TFT colour screen with connectivity as well.
So is the dash different to the other Multistradas? Is it all
Not
rider?
The 1260 all the same apart from the standard version. So this is TFT with Bluetooth connectivity as well. Got your adjustable rider modes, semi-active skyhook suspension, traction control. You've also got up-down quick shifter with the blipper as well.
Oh, so it's got the blip so it goes back through the gears. Oh,
Great.
nice.
Great.
Little pop. I've not actually rode a Multistrada for probably 2 years now. Where I've been on the racetracks all summer for many years. I've actually normally ride Harleys, a big Harley on the road. So mega impressed with the Multistrada Grand Tour yesterday, the new 1260 engine. I'm planning a trip down to the Alps in May, and with a friend who's going to be on an adventure bike as well. And so it was just a quick spin out, see what I thought of it. Mega impressed, cold, miserable, wet day, heated grips on, started on medium. Within 200 yards, turning them down to low. Mega impressed with those. So definitely an addition I need for the colder days on my race bike. The mega impressive is all the riding modes. I'm quite techie geeky with all the racing I've done and all the options we have available, and to have all that at a press of a button is fantastic. But then again, if you're not into any of that, you can just put it in touring, leave it in there, which is what I've done yesterday when we was out. Once we got settled with the filming, I just left it in touring, and absolutely amazing. As many of you know, we've rode the Multistrada before. It doesn't feel like you're on a big, heavy adventure sports bike. Handling's great. We've got some lovely roads just within miles on our doorstep here in Bridgwater, and making full use of those on the Multistrada for sure. So we've been out for a test ride on the new Ducati Multistrada Grand Tour 1260, but helped by the Merlin Titan Outlast glove. It was in all my own kit. I actually got these gloves because I do a bit of skiing, so I've had them for 3 seasons of skiing now, and I think if they live up to the temperature of minus 15, minus 18 what it was last week when I was skiing, I actually use them what they're meant for this time, because I'm a bit of a fair weather rider, I don't mind to admit it. And yeah, especially with the heated grips, absolutely faultless. With only a short trip down the road, and it wasn't actually raining when we were out, although very grotty and horrible. I was in more of a summer jacket, but with an adventure bike like that, we've got a couple of examples here that we sell in store. For the Ducatisti, we have the Ducati jacket by Spiddy, and we have the Rucker. We have a full range of these, and for my trip that I'm planning soon in early May, I'll be making a decision on which one I'm going to use, because we're planning a trip down to the Alps, and both more than adequate for the job. I had my full face race helmet on yesterday, which quick trip down the road is no problem, but from a longer trip in May down to the Alps, something like the Sherry Neotech I'm probably going to go for, because I've never had a flip front helmet. Top of the range, all singing, dancing, drop down internal dark visor, handy for petrol station stops when you've got to have your face on show, and stopping at the borders for passports and everything like that, and a really popular helmet by anyone on an adventure bike. So I think this is what I'm going to be going for.
I hope you've enjoyed the first episode of On The Level, and if you'd like to be involved in the next episode, please get in touch. Next month, my journey with Harley-Davidson continues, and Martin's got his eyes set on some of the sportier Ducatis. Until then, ride safe.
Hey! Shut up.